Hello guys, welcome back to another video. This is my care guide on Formica aserva, or as they're more commonly known as, the blood red field ant. Very interesting name choice. So, these guys are found in most of the northern states. Within these states, they're commonly found in forests or plains, although they'll really nest anywhere, they're not really picky. Within their biomes, their nest construction can actually differ slightly. Like in a forest, they'll construct their nest out of pine needles, versus in plains, or in meadows, they'll just kind of nest in the dirt like any other normal ant, and their mounds are not tall, so they're kind of hard to spot, but you'll definitely know their presence is there because they do, interestingly enough, slave raid. So they'll commonly raid the nest of other Formica species like Subsorcia or Neogagates group 2, and when they do this, they'll send hundreds of workers out and take the colony's brood or their young, and they'll raise said brood as their own. And when they hatch, they will think they're in their normal colony, since once they're fed, they'll take the colony's scent. So to them, their enslavers are actually just fellow workers. So that's the basic distribution and overview of Formica acerba. Now onto their founding. So for founding, this ant being a parasitic Formica is a little more complex than most Formica. You'll want to collect about 50 pupae of a host Formica species like Subsorcia or Neogagates group, like I mentioned earlier. And ideally you get more, but 50 is about the minimum number, and she'll still lay eggs with this. For this colony, I already collected it once they were mature, so I gave them about 30, 40 host workers maybe, and then they also had 20 bio workers or the queen's own young, and that was enough for her to lay this small clump of eggs that you've been seeing on screen. Other than that though, their founding process is quite simple. You just kind of give the pupae to the queen in the test tube, and she'll just leave her alone, and she'll just close, aka unwrap the pupae once they hatch, and she'll lay eggs from there ideally. So, in terms of temperature and humidity, these guys aren't very picky either. They ideally are kept between 68 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, although they can withstand periods above this and periods below this for short amounts of time. It is not good to shock them, though, so don't have rapid temperature changes really quickly. In terms of humidity, though, they're also actually pretty non-picky. They ideally are kept anywhere between about 50 to 70% humidity, although, kind of like in temperature, they can withstand anything above or below this for short periods of time. They're not very picky. They do require hibernation, though, and they should be kept in this hibernation period for about 3 to 4 months. And anything anywhere between 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit is the ideal hibernation temperature, although they can withstand anything slightly below or above this for short periods of time. This colony was hibernated for 3 months, although I think they could have used the fourth because they didn't lay eggs for like 2 months after hibernation. That is their basic temperature and humidity overview. In terms of diet, these guys are very generalist. They'll really eat any insect or sugar source you feed them. So for sugar, you can mix honey and water to form a non-viscous solution. Otherwise, if you just feed them raw honey, they might get stuck and drown. Or you can just do what I do, which is feed them sugar water, and I dye mine so I can actually tell if they're drinking them. And if you see any workers with red tints on their abdomens, that's because they're filled with sugar water. In terms of insects for protein, I will feed them mealworm larvae or pupae. And as such, the bio workers, are actually quite capable of foraging for themselves, unlike other parasitic formica, which makes them a little bit different, and they stand out a little bit as a result. So if you don't want to give them host brood after founding, then they don't necessarily need it, although it's encouraged, and that's what I did with this colony here. There's some things they won't eat, like seeds, but that's really the extent of it. They'll eat most things besides that. So this has been my care guide on Formica acerva. If you have any questions, just comment, and I will post most of what I've said, or maybe more actually of what I've said, down in the description in case, you ever want to refer back to this information, and I'll also have it posted on my website. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.